Most of us know that we need to change, but we just don't know how. Have you ever been in this situation where it's a Friday night, you're halfway through a pint of Ben & Jerry's, you got ice cream all over your face, and you look at yourself and you're like, something's gotta change. I'm gonna start a new workout routine in the morning. Or maybe you watch a documentary like I did called Forks Over Knives, and you woke up the next morning, you're like, crap, I need to become a vegan like yesterday. And we have this big motivation to change, and sometimes we do change for a couple days or a couple weeks, but eventually that motivation dims and we end up quitting or failing. And what we need to realize is that sometimes it gets difficult when the rubber meets the road and when we shift from theory to practice. And in last week's video, I talked about how you're doing habits wrong, but what I realized is that people need a step-by-step manual to start a new habit to make sure that when things get difficult or when things get hard, we can keep those good habits in place and make them sustainable. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about what I would do or how I would implement a brand new habit from scratch that lasts a lifetime. There's gonna be 6 ideas that we're gonna be covering in this video down here below. I don't know where they're gonna be on the screen, but we're gonna cover these 6 ideas to make sure that you can implement any behavior you want and make sure it lasts. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so the first idea I want to share with you guys is clarifying aspirations. A lot of the times when we get started, it's because we have this massive surge of motivation, right? I just explained to you the Netflix documentary that I saw called Forks Over Knives, and it motivated the heck out of me to stop eating meat and become more plant-based, right? And when we're riding that motivation wave, what BJ Fogg out of Stanford calls the motivation monkey, we can do a million different things in a million different directions, right? You know, when you're amped up to do something, you want to take action. But what BJ warns us about is that sometimes that motivation dims, and we need to have a really clear idea of what it is that we're after. We need to have a really clear aspiration. So my question for you is, what is your aspiration that you want to start when you're building this new habit or behavior? The habit that I'm really focused on building right now is this habit or this aspiration of creating more energy in my life. I want to be able to go throughout my entire day feeling motivated, passionate, and really present in my life. So I'm working on this habit of energy. What is yours like? Maybe your aspiration is reducing screen time. Maybe your aspiration is being more present and focused in the moment. Maybe it's working out or exercising more. The key thing here is that the aspiration is kind of more of a metaphoric, kind of bigger, esoteric kind of idea, okay? It's not really specific. It's a general idea of what you want to move towards. So we need to get really clear on that so that when the motivation monkey runs away, we still have this kind of picture of what it is that we want to be doing. So first idea is get really clear on the aspiration. What is it that you're after? And the next idea, what we're going to talk about, is moving from aspiration to behavior. Aspirations are kind of the big metaphorical, abstract thing, but then we need to move a little bit closer and closer to something concrete, which is a behavior. You can't just do reducing screen time, or you can't just do more energy. There's behaviors that we need to understand associated with that get really concrete that we can take action on. But that's in the next idea. So first idea, get really clear on your aspiration. Okay, so the second idea is exploring behaviors. We're gonna pull out some magic wands and do a little magic wanding, but like I explained in the last idea, the second thing we need to do or understand is that there's a ton of different behaviors that will get us to the same outcome, right? There's probably 10, 15, 20, 30 different things you can do if your aspiration is to create more energy. Maybe your behavior that you're trying to implement is reducing screen time, or maybe it's becoming more connected or present with your friends and family. Think about all the different behaviors that you could implement that would get you to that outcome. So I want you guys to take out your magic wand, and we're gonna magic wand some new behaviors. If you knew that you could get yourself to do anything, what would you do to get towards your aspiration? So if your aspiration is to reduce screen time, or in my situation, create more energy, if I could wave a magic wand and do anything on a day-to-day basis, what are the behaviors that would get me more energy? Well, I could list things like eat healthier foods, right? Maybe I add a vegetable to every single meal. Or maybe I swing the kettlebell every single morning as soon as my feet touch the ground. Or maybe I start running every single morning, or something like that. And you can see how this list go on and on and on. Sleep better, reduce the amount of time I'm spending on my phone, whatever that might be. I want you guys to magic wand all the different behaviors you could implement right now that would get you towards your aspiration. So that's the second step. How could we magic wand some behaviors that'll lead us to those aspirations? And we want to make a really long list. All right, so the third idea or third step in this process is matching specific behaviors. First and foremost, we clarified our aspiration. We created a long list of specific behaviors that are going to lead to that outcome or goal. And thirdly, we need to find the right behaviors for us. We need to realize is that not all behaviors are created equal. Some behaviors will hit differently for some people and differently for others. We need to find what works for us. So in this part of the exercise, we're going to take a look at that long list of behaviors we just created and ask 2 questions. Got this idea from BJ Fogg, who wrote the book Tiny Habits. I reference him a lot during this, but he talks about how we need to match specific behaviors for what is effective for us and what we have the ability to do. So in this third step of creating a new habit or behavior, you're going to look at each one of those things on the list and you're going to ask 2 questions. Is this behavior effective at getting me to my outcome? And do I have the ability to do it? A lot of times people will just willy-nilly pick behaviors because they see what's hot on the internet or they have friends that are doing it, but you're not your friends, you're not everybody on the internet, you're unique and specific, and you need to pick the ones that you feel like you can actually achieve and accomplish. So if I have 3 things on my list and it's go to bed at 9 o'clock every single night to increase my energy, it's to eat a vegetable at every single meal, or it's to join a energy workshop class. I don't know, something crazy like that. I'm going to take a look at each one of those 3 and ask, is this effective? And does this, do I have the ability to do it? So for me, going to bed at 9 o'clock, is that effective? Heck yeah. I'm going to feel rested and energized in the morning. That's going to have a big impact on my day. Do I have the ability to do it? Yes, I do. I have complete control over going to bed. What's the other one I said? Eating vegetables every single day. Is this effective? Yes. Eating healthier foods is going to increase my energy levels. Do I have the ability to do it? Yep, it's super easy. 1 vegetable every single day. I can definitely do that. The third one is, what was the third one? Going to some type of energy workshop or class. I'm sure those things exist out there. It's the 21st century. It's 2021. Those things exist. Is it effective? I'm going to say not really, right? How effective is it? I don't know. I might meet some people. I might get introduced to some things, maybe. But I'm going to say no on the effective scale. And then do I have the ability to do it? Yeah, I do. But then I'd have to drive somewhere and go do it. I'd have to pay maybe, or do it every single week. It's a big time commitment. So I'm going to say no, that's not really high on my ability. And so what I'm going to see is I'm going to see those 2 behaviors that are really effective at getting me at what I want and really, really high ability are really easy for me to do. So the question is for you guys, what is really effective from the behaviors that you put, and which of those behaviors are you really, really able to do, are really easy for you to do, or really simple to implement? Okay, so that's the third step in this process, is matching specific behaviors to find what BJ Fogg calls golden behaviors. If you put a check mark next to it for effective and check mark next to it for ability, those are your golden behaviors. Those are the things that you can implement. All right, so the 4th step in this process is to start tiny. We know what our aspiration is, we have some behaviors, and then we found our golden behaviors. Now we're jazzed up and we're like, yep, we're gonna implement these behaviors. But a word of caution, right? This is the motivation monkey creeping in. We're getting really excited about putting these new behaviors in action, but we need to understand how to start implementing these so we don't just start doing them, have that motivation fall off, and then we quit. So I wanna introduce you to BJ Fogg's Fogg behavior model. There's only 3 things you need to understand for implementing a new behavior. There's 3 different things that affect new behaviors: motivation, ability, and prompt. In the last video, we talked about the Fogg behavior model, which we'll demo somewhere over here, but it's effectively on the horizontal axis, it's ability. On the vertical axis, it's motivation. And we have the line here, which is the action line. And then we have somewhere in there the prompt. And the prompt is what cues the behavior. So the motivation is how badly we want to do something, how likely we are to do something. The ability is how able we are to do something, if we're really able to do something, or if something's really, really hard to do. And then the prompt is the cue that will basically send us over the edge to either do a behavior or not do a behavior. Now, what we want to focus on in Start Tiny is not motivation, right? Motivation fades off, but ability, we can scale anything down to make it easier to make sure that we follow through. So the point of this next step is to think about the golden behaviors you just selected and ask yourself, how can I make this so easy I can't not do it? The goal in starting tiny is to do something really, really minuscule and work up a base foundation that then you can scale up, okay? So What are your base behaviors? For me, maybe it's going to bed at 9 o'clock every single night. Maybe to begin with, I'm just gonna get in bed at 9 o'clock every single night, right? Don't need to worry about going to sleep. Don't need to worry about not looking at my phone, whatever it might be. I'm just gonna get in bed every single night. And then I can slowly ramp that behavior up. Maybe it's eating more vegetables, so maybe I'm just gonna eat a vegetable at every single breakfast. And then I can scale it up a little bit more to have a vegetable at breakfast and lunch, and then breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then so on and so forth. So the goal here for you is to start really, really, really tiny. How can we make this so easy you can't not do it? If your goal is to be exercising, maybe it's just 1 push-up versus 100, or maybe it's just a walk around the block versus a jog around the block. Whatever it is for you, start really, really small, and then we can scale up. So that's the 4th step in this process, is to start tiny. All right, so the 5th step in this process is follow your ABCs. Now, when we want to really drive in a new habit or behavior, we just identified what those behaviors are going to be. Okay, let's say for me, it's going to be going to bed at 9 o'clock every single night. So what we need to do is follow our ABCs. A stands for anchor, B stands for behavior, our habit that we're going to implement, and then C stands for celebrate. So for this example, a lot of the times, and James Clear, he talks about in Atomic Habits, piggybacking, BJ Fogg talks about anchoring. When we're setting up a new behavior, sometimes it can be weird to try and figure out where that's going to play into our lives. The best way to really drive this groove home is to anchor it or piggyback it with another behavior that we already do. So what we want to figure out is what's something we already have a habit or a behavior around that we can piggyback our new behavior that we're trying to implement around. We call this anchoring. This is what the A stands for. So for me, every single night before I go to bed, I brush my teeth. That's an anchor for me that after I brush my teeth, I get into bed. And that can be a new great way for me to build in this habit. For you, think about what it is, something you already do that you can build your new habit on top of to make it stick. And we're building in that anchor. And a lot of the times the anchor looks like this. If X, then Y. If X, then we're gonna do the if A, the anchor, then we're gonna do B, the habit that we're trying to implement. And that's exactly what B stands for in the ABCs. It stands for the new behavior or the little tiny habit we're gonna be implementing. So ABCs, A equals anchor, if, B equals the behavior, then if I do X, then I'll do Y. But here's the most important part. We can't forget our C's, and C stands for celebrate. And this could probably be the most important thing you need to do when you're trying to groove home or build in a new habit or behavior, and that's to celebrate. Emotions create new behaviors. Have you ever been in a situation where you've done something you're really, really proud of and you really feel that authentic happiness that you've done something? Well, a lot of the times that is what's going to drive home you to reinforce and do that behavior in the future. We need to celebrate our successes, and it turns out from the research that it doesn't matter how big the success is as long as we congratulate or celebrate ourselves on that. And what we do is when we continue to feel like we're winning, we want to win more. And it grooves home that habit deeper, deeper, and deeper. So my challenge for you is to follow your ABCs. Anchor in whatever behavior we're going to piggyback of. B, implement your new behavior right after that. And then C, celebrate. For me, celebrate looks something like I pound my chest. I'm not going to do it because I have the microphone on, but I pound my chest. Or sometimes I'll clap. Or sometimes I'll pat myself on the back. Whatever it is for you, make sure you celebrate. And the key thing here is the harder you celebrate, the deeper emotional kind of the deeper the emotion is going to sit and the more you're going to want to do that behavior in the future. So the more emotion you can build when you celebrate, the better the habit's going to stick and the longer you're going to have it. So ABCs, anchor, behavior, celebrate. So the 6th and final step is we've got the aspiration, we've found the behaviors, we've matched our behaviors to find the golden ones, right? What did we do after that? We started really, really tiny. We did our ABCs, and lastly, what we're gonna do is figure out how to scale up. Now, the reality here is that habits take a little bit of time to build. The things that you guys can do to scale up are celebrate harder and get a little bit better a little bit over time. A word of caution here is that the best way to scale up is to not move too quickly. What we want to make sure we're doing in the beginning is building a foundation. We're not looking for results right away. We're looking to build consistency. So as you're scaling up, you need to be kind with yourself, right? Consistency is more important than results. So a couple words of caution. As you continue to build up whatever habit it is more and more, always fall to the level of your motivation in the beginning, right? Sometimes you might say, I'm gonna do 50 push-ups, but you only feel like doing 10. Stick to the 10 push-ups and make sure that you just don't skip a day. It's the consistency that's more important in the beginning than the actual results that you're getting. James Clear always says, stick to the schedule, but reduce the scope. Not missing and building that consistency is more important. And as you continue to build and scale up higher and higher, the best thing you can do is celebrate harder and harder. And that's gonna give you more and more motivation and drive to then do more and more. So sixth step, when you're scaling up, always fall to the level of your motivation in the beginning as you slowly scale up, and as you scale up more and more, celebrate harder and harder. So I hope you guys enjoyed this step-by-step process in building a new habit. Just to recap, the first thing that we're gonna do is get clear on our aspiration. The second thing that we're gonna do is pick our behaviors. We're then gonna match those specific behaviors to find the golden behaviors. We're then gonna go ahead and start with tiny. We're then gonna go ahead and scale up, and we're not gonna scale up. We're gonna follow our ABCs to drive it home. And then lastly, we're gonna scale up to build bigger and better habits. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Go ahead and let me know what the best thing that you learned from this video down below, or maybe the thing that you struggled most with down below. If there's other videos you guys want me to do something on, let me know in the comments. And if not, I hope to see you guys soon.